morning, ladies and gentlemen. What a potboiler of an election that we've seen all day today. In fact, if anybody was feeling dull after a very slow time over the last 6 to 8 months due to the lockdown, due to the COVID-19 and working from home, then today's seesaw of numbers probably has rocked you out of your stupor, and this is going right down to the wire. And the numbers that have been going up and down, it's been the NDA over the last 10 hours that has stuck its neck out, but will it make past the halfway mark? That's a story that's been fluctuating for a while now. In these extraordinary circumstances, it is the Election Commission that's come out, batted on the front foot, made the arrangements, almost 63% extra booths for polling. Counting has therefore been even more intense, more diversified, social distancing, and proper briefings by the Election Commission have given us an understanding on why the counting is taking so long. So even as we wait for the final results, the numbers that are stacked as of now are looking in terms of favorable for the NDA in a very tight run, tightly fought elections. 123 to the NDA, 113 to the Gathbandhan, and that's where it is stacked. Close to 85% of the votes have already been counted, and NDA seems to have the edge. Remember, 123 is the halfway mark. If 123 it's going to be, then it is somewhere that the NDA will be looking at forming the government. The number of others, that is 7, of which 1 is the BSP, 1 is an independent, and 5 are AIMIM. While the AIMIM cannot go with the BJP, will it go with the Gathbandhan on the losing side when it's tried to create some sort of an identity with the Muslim votes? We don't know, but staying absent in a count of vote on the floor of the House is certainly something that Asaduddin Owaisi can do, and that possibly is something that the BJP would have as an ace up its sleeve, and that could be the required number that it needs. While the Gathbandhan will need much more than that, because right now it's about 10 short, and all the others together cannot help the Gathbandhan. So is it going to be the BJP? That's the big question. Let's take a look at the numbers, the way they are stacked up. JDU 43, BJP 72. That's the way it's stacked up in the NDA. The HAM 4 and VIP 4 again. So that is 123 of the NDA. Look at the Gathbandhan. Out of the 113, the RJD 76. Congress 19, left 18. That's how it's stacked up. And Congress, of course, pulling down the Gathbandhan like nobody else could have. On the other side, you have the LJP with 1 big 0, making only one contribution in this election, which is cutting the JDU vote. And this is what Hanuman has done, almost behaving like Vibhishan. That is Chirag Paswan. BSP 1 likely to go with the BJP if the situation arises. 5 of AIMIM and 1 independent. Which way are they going to go is going to determine. Let's also look at the strike rates of each of these political parties. The BJP has a strike rate of almost 70%. In fact, 72% is the strike rate of the BJP. In fact, 62% is the strike rate of the BJP. Let's take a look at the JDU and its strike rate, the number of seats they fought versus the number they have won. JP Nadda, of course, coming out with that stupendous strike rate of 62%. It is the JDU which has around less than 50% of a strike rate, and clearly anti-incumbency and the LJP has damaged the JDU chances. Let's also look at the Gathbandhan. The RJD has a strike rate which is again close to about 50%, and and we are also going to be looking at the Congress, which seems to be looking at a strike rate which is much lower. So JDU 39%, Gathbandhan has the RJD at a little less than 50%, and the Congress, of course, crashing out of this election. That's the way the elections and the strike rates are stacked at the moment. Sharif bhai, you'll have to move those graphics much faster than that because they're getting stuck somewhere. Let's put the strike rate graphics, and let's take a look at the clusters, and the clusters that are giving us the story. And the clusters that give us the story are the clusters of Muslims. Now look at the number of Muslims where the BJP has played a dominant role, and we are looking at the Muslim cluster. The minorities have gone with the BJP more than they have gone with the JDU. Look at the urban cluster. Again, the BJP, JDU combined far ahead. The Muslim cluster, the BJP, JDU far ahead. And even in rural, they seem to have fared well. So rural Bihar, urban Bihar and minorities in Bihar have put their faith in Narendra Modi and of course Nitish Kumar. That's the way things are stacked in Bihar. The numbers give you the entire story there on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. And this is not just about an election in Bihar. Let's also look at the by-poll results from across the country. There were 60 seats in 11 states that went for by-polls. And look at the performance that has been given out by the BJP in each of these states. 8 on 8 in Gujarat. 20 on 29 in Madhya Pradesh, 5 on 6 in Uttar Pradesh, in fact 6 on 7 in Uttar Pradesh, 4 out of 5 in Manipur. Whichever way you look at it, it seems that the BJP has performed exceedingly well in these elections, and therefore Modi still the strongest, Modi magic still intact. That's the way things are looking, going straight across to my panelists tonight. And I want to get in Yashwant Deshmukh first up on the show. Seawater Times Now had predicted the edge to the Mahagathbandhan, and at the moment the numbers as they are stacked clearly show that these are closest to the Seawater survey. And I want to ask you, Yashwant Deshmukh, it's a time for you to take a bow. Congratulations to you. Extremely close election, and the numbers bearing out just what you had pointed them out to be. So Yashwant Deshmukh, I want to ask you, where is the story that you're looking at? Are you looking at the clusters where Muslims, urban, rural, all have voted for the BJP, or are you looking at the Congress pulling down the RJD? What's the story? What's the one big headline?
Well, there is no one big headline, Navika. There are few untold headlines which I would like to bring it to your notice, which I'm sure that you will do justice to. I would like them, through you to say that, you know, it was the female voters of Bihar which have saved the day for the NDA, number one. And the female voters of Bihar, they voted on the double engine trustworthiness. The trustworthiness of not just Nitish Kumar, but also the Prime Minister Modi. So primarily, this was the thing which worked for NDA in Bihar. And that's a long-term thing. It's not a short-term thing where, you know, a reverse migration for an unseen disaster happens and, you know, all of a sudden there is a issue of berozgari up in and somebody cashes in on that. No. Females of Bihar have voted with a very rock-solid intention, silent intention that this is what they want, number one. Number two, I would like to bring to your notice, no matter how hard people try to play down what kind of politics Asaduddin Owaisi is doing, but he has clearly underlined that Muslims in this country literally hate to be taken granted for by the so-called secular Kawar. You know, this is very, very important watershed moment as far as the Muslim politics is concerned. You know, a party outside Hyderabad going all the way. They have made their mark once in Maharashtra, in Aurangabad seat, and now in Bihar in this way. Muslims are telling that we hate to be taken for granted, including the branding of certain Lutein agenda that of Sarkari Muslim for the Muslims who vote for the BJP or the NDA. So that is to be called out for. Third, you just mentioned the bipoles, Navika. Just mentioned the bipole, and I will bring down only one bipole which has completely gone under the radar. But that is going to be a watershed movement. That is the bipole of Telangana in Dubak constituency. Why I am saying so? It reminds me of a certain Ellisbridge constituency bipole in the early 90s in Gujarat, when all of a sudden after that bipole, BJP became larger than life entity in Gujarat. Now, from here onward, I can tell you, looking at the result of Dubak bipole, where BJP polled hardly 4% in 2009, hardly 9% in 14, hardly 13% in 2018, and as on today, they polled 40%. This is the movement where BJP is going to become a pole, one single pole in Telangana, and Telangana, I can predict as on today to you, Navika, is going to be the second saffron state in south of India.
Well, that's the big takeaway, and clearly at this point in time, the BJP story is intact. For me, that is the big headline, 123 versus 113. If you look at the numbers, and there are 7 others, whatever you look at it from, whichever prism you look at it, it seems that the BJP is in a more comfortable position than the Mahagathbandhan, number one. And number two, the bipole results from across the country say one story, which is the fact that the BJP story is intact, the credibility and the magic of Narendra Modi is intact. Just as Narendra Modi pulls up his alliance partners like Nitish Kumar, it is actually the Congress that pulls down its alliance partners, just as we've seen in Bihar. So that is the story that's coming across. And let me introduce my panel this evening. Shehzad Poonawala, Dr. Sambit Patra, Dr. Anand Ranganathan. Also joining us is Ghanshyam Tiwari, Dr. Fuad Halim, and of course we have our representatives both coming in from the RJD as well as the JDU with us this evening. First and foremost, let me ask you, Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari. Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari, you know, this whole exercise of trying to say कि हम जीत रहे हैं और ये पहले ईवीएम का बहाना एक चलता था, आज फिर कह रहे हैं कि रीकाउंटिंग के लिए बीजेपी प्रेशर कर रही है. Why does the opposition always come down to this? You know, it's been a seesaw battle and it's been going evenly on, up and down on both sides. Do you think you take away from the entire democratic process that the Election Commission and the entire infrastructure that is employed, the human infrastructure that is employed in getting these elections off the ground, do you actually insult them in this manner when you begin to question at this late stage some processes of the election counting? Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari.
Phenomenal that more people than 2015 voted in COVID times in Bihar. More women came out to vote. And the agenda was centered around jobs, and a young man was able to shape the agenda in the face of 2 veterans, very successful veterans, Nitish Kumar and Narendra Modi. At the same time, why this is going live to the wire, I can name 14 seats that where Mahagathbandhan is ahead, and another 23 where NDA is ahead. Actually, the reverse, 23 seats where Mahagathbandhan is ahead, and another 14 where NDA is ahead, which are going to the wire. Several rounds of counting are remaining. As a result, every vote, the way it is counted, is important, and as a result, parties are showing the nerve to stay in the race and be very focused on what the process and the transparency that is involved in the final rounds of counting. Which is by midnight we will know. But I think the parties are the stakeholders of public trust. People have voted, and their vote must be respected, and that is the reason every party is showing their way, their assertion in respecting that.
Stakeholders of public trust, but who gives them the right to erode the public trust? And Abdul Basit साहब, मैं आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ, 123 बनाम 113 अभी के जो रुझान आ रहे हैं ये दिखा रहे हैं. अब इस वक्त जब तक तो आप आगे चल रहे थे तब तक तो आपको कोई दिक्कत नहीं थी, अब आप क्या रिजल्ट को क्वेश्चन करेंगे, आप काउंटिंग को क्वेश्चन करेंगे, आप ईवीएम को क्वेश्चन करेंगे, या आप कहेंगे कि यही है जनता का मतदान और यही है जनता का जो वर्डिक्ट है? क्या आप इसको मानेंगे?
मैडम, मैं आपको स्पष्ट कर दूं, पिछले 2 घंटे से एक ही रुझान है, हम इसी रुझानों पर आके अटके हुए हैं। अब इसके पीछे मैं कोई साजिशन, कोई बात नहीं करूंगा, मगर मैं आपको ये बिल्कुल स्पष्ट कर देना चाहता हूं कि अभी भी 60 लाख वोटों की गिनती बाकी है, अभी भी ये रुझान है, ये विनिंग सीट नहीं है। हमें आज इस आरजेडी को इस देश में जीत से कोई नहीं हटा सकता, क्योंकि हम पूरे विनिंग कैंडिडेट उतारे थे सारे, और जो पब्लिक का रुझान था वो एक तरफा था। मगर अभी क्या, ये सारी बातें तो चर्चा का विषय रहेंगी, मगर आज की स्थिति मैं स्पष्ट कर दूं कि संबित पात्रा की टीम, पूरी हिंदुस्तान की बीजेपी का अमला जितना मर्जी जोर लगा ले, आज बीजेपी की वहां से हार तय है, इसमें कोई शंका नहीं है। आज स्पष्ट कर देना चाहता हूं कि आरजेडी के जो बेचारे प्रताड़ित लोग थे लॉकडाउन से, उन्होंने स्थितियों को आकलन किया था। मेरे पास भी दिल्ली में हजारों आदमी मेरे टच में थे जो कि बेचारे परेशान होकर गए। जो भी आरजेडी ने दिल्ली से उनकी हेल्प करना चाहिए करी, ऐसी बात नहीं है, इसके बहुत सारे गवाह मिलेंगे आपको। मगर आज की स्थिति यह है कि केवल और केवल राजनीति का हमें कुछ नहीं, इसमें प्रताड़ित लोगों ने अपनी प्रताड़ना दिखाई है और बीजेपी को बाहर का रास्ता दिखाने की कोशिश करी थी। अब इसके पीछे देखिए, अगर स्वावलंबनी अगर ये 123 सीट पर आ रहे हैं तो निस्संदेह इसके पीछे कोई बहुत बड़ा वर्डिक्ट है, जिसके पीछे अब ये 2 घंटे से मुझे प्रशासनिक तौर पर या राजनीतिक तौर पर किस दबाव के अंदर, क्योंकि अमित शाह जी ने और मिस्टर नितिन जब फोन पर 2 घंटे पहले बात की है, उसके बाद से आंकड़ों में तब्दीली आनी शुरू हुई है। देश का वर्डिक्ट आरजेडी के साथ है। अगर इस बार कोई इसमें घपला या किसी प्रकार का घोटाला हुआ,
this is such a ridiculous charge. This is such a ridiculous charge because nobody in the election commission is giving any credence to any of this. No recounting, no pressure, no phone calls. In fact, Dr. Sambit Patra, यही बात है जो कहीं ना कहीं ऑपोजिशन हमेशा अंत में आकर करती है, जिससे पता चलता है कि ये डेमोक्रेटिक वैल्यूज में कितना विश्वास रखते हैं। जब लोगों का रुझान सामने आ गया तो कोई कहता है बिहार की जनता बेवकूफ है, ये तो फ्री वैक्सीन में बिक गई, इनको पता ही नहीं, दिख ही नहीं रहा कुछ। पहले ये कहा, उसके बाद जाके कहा कि मुसलमान जो है वो भी टर्न हो गए, उनको भी समझ नहीं आ रही क्या हो रहा है। Are they mocking the voter? Are they mocking the democratic system? Are they mocking the institution of election commission? What are they mocking?
See, Navika, we all Indians since 2014 have got used to all these bunkum excuses of our opposition parties, particularly the Congress, that in fact today we don't even feel like replying to these questions. We don't even feel like taunting them. There was a time when we used to taunt them, we used to be sarcastic whenever they used to blame the EVM, the Supreme Court, the Election Commission, etc., etc. But today I feel sorry for them. It's more a matter of pity than replying them. I don't believe that they even merit a reply on these questions, because a few minutes ago, in fact, I was in a channel and Udit Raj was with me, and Mr. Udit Raj, I mean the future president of Congress party, in fact, went ahead to say that if you have your mobile phone with Bluetooth, then you can immediately hack the EVM machine. And he even went ahead to say that Congress people have done so in Haryana. Few congressmen went around hacking the by-election in Haryana, to prove that EVMs can be hacked. Such bizarre talks by these congressmen and these RJD walas, that these RRs, that is the Rudali Rone Walos, they don't deserve a reply. Coming to the larger crux, I totally agree with Yashwant Deshmukh today, and Telangana is an unsung story tonight, but in fact tomorrow and day after we should be discussing about Telangana. As far as Bihar is concerned, till yesterday night, I mean, we were projected as if we had totally lost. We were projected as if it was a sweep election. It was as if it was a wave election, and the Bharatiya Janata Party, the JDU combined, had no possibility. And here we are. I mean, I had maintained that we had to be very patient. But once these people, these Rudalis came out and started crying, now I'm confirmed about the result that we are forming the government. Because I know they have realized that they have lost the election, or they would not have come out crying. Look, these elections, these bypolls and this election in Bihar would be the historic elections which will be remembered for all times to come. Why? The first elections to be held under the cover of pandemic, and this is a stamp by the people of India that, well, yes, we stand with Narendra Modi.
We have big breaking news coming in. We have big breaking news coming in. The RJD has done what any sore loser would do at the end of the day. Nearly from 8 o'clock this morning, 13 hours of counting, and now the RJD hurls charges at the Election Commission of India and stumps it, saying that there is actually fraud, poll fraud that's going on. That is the latest charge coming in from RJD, and that clearly shows somewhere or the other the sore losers are back on the stage. Shehzad Poonawalla, Prashant joining me live from Patna. Prashant, is the RJD moving the Election Commission? What's their grouse? Is it because they are stuck at 113 and not past the halfway mark? Is that the biggest grouse that the RJD has?
Well, that might be one of the cases, Navika, but if you talk about the RJD sources, they have confirmed to me right now that they are moving the Election Commission, saying that at least on 8 seats, the local DM there informed the candidate that you have won the election initially, but then they were asked to wait, and when they approached the DM for the winning certificate, apparently and allegedly by the RJD, the candidates were told that you have lost the election by some 13 votes, 14 votes, 15 votes. Now RJD MP Manoj Jha will be leading the charge in this case. He will be a moving Election Commission in some time from now, is what top sources in the RJD are confirming to us here on Times Now.
Mr. Manoj Jha has been trying this right from the morning. Mr. Manoj Jha has been trying and raising these questions. So Shehzad Poonawalla, 8 seats, DM, going and saying things that are contrary to what the candidates believe. Is it even possible, given the fact that candidates from all political parties are present, number one, each one of them signs after every round of voting, and they sign only after everything is corroborated between the Election Commission counting people over there and all the candidates present. So Shehzad Poonawalla, if it had to happen, why will it happen only on 8 seats? Why not on other seats? Why will BJP be stuck on 123 and not maybe 127 or 132? Is this the most bizarre charge that you've ever heard?
Navika, see, social distancing is required in Corona Kal, but social distancing from logic is definitely required if you're in RJD and Congress. So, Yashwant will be able to explain to you better, but जो लोग जो बाइडन खोज रहे थे पटना में, अब ट्रंप की बोली बोल रहे हैं पटना में, तो जो बाइडन से ट्रंप का रास्ता तो इन्होंने तय कर लिया। बहरहाल मैं अपने बड़े भाई यशवंत को धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं कि उन्होंने सटीक पोल दिखाया, और अच्छी बात यह है कि वो स्टूडियो में नाचने नहीं लगे। पिछली बार कुछ ऐसे लेफ्ट लिबरल के लोग हैं जो अपने आप को इतना सही साबित करने में तुले थे लास्ट 2-3 दिन तक, उन्होंने नैरेटिव भी बना दिया था, तेजस्वी इज द गेम चेंजर, तेजस्वी इज द यूथ आइकॉन, तेजस्वी इज द जो बाइडन ऑफ पटना। अरे तेजस्वी आ रहा है, सिंहासन खाली करो नीतीश। अरे पूरा युवा वोट जा रहा है। मोदी तो पूरे देश में हार गया है, क्योंकि ये मैंडेट था कोरोना पर, ये मैंडेट था बेरोजगारी पर। अब घनश्याम जी बोल रहे हैं डीकपल करो, ये वर्डिक्ट को डीकपल करो, डोंट काउंट इट विथ। ये प्रॉब्लम तो है, पर ये वर्डिक्ट इस पर नहीं है। तो ये देखिए, दीज आर दी पोस्टर बॉयज, द पोस्टर चाइल्ड्स ऑफ हिपोक्रेसी। पूरे देश में चुनाव हुए हैं, उत्तर प्रदेश में ये 1 सीट जीतने वाले लोग, ये हाँ केंद्र सरकार की
यशवंत देशमुख, अब्दुल बासित एंड यशवंत देशमुख, आई वांट टू गेट यू बोथ इन। अब्दुल बासित साहब, मैं सबसे पहले ये आपसे पूछना चाहती हूं, इस वक्त भी 113 पर सिंगल लार्जेस्ट पार्टी आरजेडी है। आरजेडी है, तो अगर ये पोल के अगर इलेक्शन कमीशन या डीएम या फलाना ढिमकाना सब चोरी कर रहे हैं, तो आप सिंगल लार्जेस्ट पार्टी कैसे हैं? नंबर 1। और अगर आप कंटेस्ट कर रहे हैं तो फिर ये डीएम वगैरह जो है आपको सिंगल लार्जेस्ट पार्टी बना क्यों रहे हैं? नहीं तो ये तो 126 तक गया, 9 बजने में 5 मिनट तक 126 का था।
आप धरातल पर देखिए कि तेजस्वी जी ने इतनी मेहनत करी है, एक आंदोलन छेड़ा, जनता के बीच में गए, प्रताड़ित होते बात करी, जो लॉकडाउन के शिकार लोग थे, जिनके घर मौतें हुई, जिनके लोग सड़कों पे मर गए, उन सबके घर गए।
अरे भैया तो मेहनत करी तो ऐसा, अगर यशवंत देशमुख मेहनत करी तो एहसान किया क्या कि मेहनत करी है तो इसलिए रिजल्ट उनके ही फेवर में जाना, ऐसा कहीं कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में लिखा है क्या?
दोनों एंटाइटलमेंट से नहीं जीतते, लोगों के वोट से जीतते हैं। इनको समझाइए चुनाव और लोकतंत्र कैसे चलता है। यहाँ पे किसी का बेटा होने से चुनाव नहीं जीतते।
यशवंत देशमुख
समझिए ना इस बात को, इसको डेमोक्रेसी कहते हैं।
Okay, we are having audio problems. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, I want to ask you, Abdul Basit says that इतना मेहनत किए हैं और नंबर 113 पे स्टक है. Is this a logic based on which you can question the election commission's process of counting the votes?
Yeah, good evening, Navika. This is the party, let me remind you, for those who are old enough to remember, that back in the 90s, because of their deeds, the phrase stuffing of the ballot was invented. All through the 90s and early 2000s, the phrase stuffing of the ballot used to represent the way elections were conducted in Bihar. तो अब ऑब्वियसली इनको लग रहा है कि भाई हमें वापस उस पर जाना चाहिए, और आपको याद है पिछले एक हफ्ते से काफ़ी जर्नलिस्ट भी ये कह रहे हैं कि आई थिंक अमेरिकन इलेक्शंस देखने के बाद इंडिया में ईवीएम्स हटाओ और बैलेट वापस लाओ. अब बैलेट वापस लाएंगे तो स्टफिंग द बैलेट होगा. बहरहाल मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि Yeah, Navika, so, just to continue on this discussion, there are two important points out here, and I would like to little bit disagree with my good friend Yashwant. First of all, congratulations to him and to you for getting the exit poll absolutely right, at least as far as I can see till now. Of course, the final results will come only 2 or 3 hours from now. It is hanging by the wire. But when he talks about tactical voting, I would like to take just one example of, for example, Kishanganj. Kishanganj is 73.1% Muslim majority. In there, you have a Muslim candidate from Congress who's got 36% vote. You have a Muslim candidate from, of course, AIMIM who's got 27% vote. And you have a Hindu candidate called Sweety Singh from Bihar. Sir, एक सेकंड,
बिंदु का कोई किशनगंज का या किसी चीज का कोई लेने देना नहीं. ये तो आंदोलन के तहत जो लड़ाई थी उसको जीतने की. ये आप पोलराइज करने की बात नहीं करें कि वहां पर ये तो
इसीलिए दंगे वाला कह रहे थे
आप.
नाविका, कैन यू प्लीज?
अब्दुल बासित साहब, आप तो पूरे पोल ही नहीं मान रहे, तो अब किशनगंज से आपको क्या फर्क पड़ता है? आपका रास्ता तो अलग है, अब आपका रास्ता ही अलग है.
नहीं, थर्ड फेज के चुनाव में कांग्रेस को थोड़ी बहुत हार का सामना करना पड़ा है, मगर ऐसा नहीं है कि हम लोग इतने नंबर पे. हमारा नंबर 150 के आसपास आना चाहिए था. अब देखिए क्या तो बहुत अभी 70 लाख वोटों में काउंटिंग बाकी है, रही है.
कांग्रेस थोड़ी बहुत हार गई है.
शुक्रिया.
डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन कुछ कह रहे हैं, सुन लीजिए. डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन,
नाम इनको याद नहीं आ रहा था. नितिन बोल रहे थे, किसको लाए हैं आरजेडी से आज?
He was calling Nitish Kumar.
Dr. Patra, please.
Can you take these people seriously?
Finish the point.
नहीं, अभी 15 साल ही हुए हैं ना नीतीश कुमार को. शायद याद नहीं हुआ, शायद और 5 साल में याद हो जाए नाम. डॉक्टर पात्रा, क्या है, थोड़ा उम्मीद रखिए.
या नाविका, चलिए ठीक है. What I was
Yes,
so as I was saying, if you look at the votes that, yes, very briefly, just first of 2 points. Sir, please, one second. You know, 5 people interrupted me, and I was very polite listening to you all very politely. Please give me less than a minute. I promise you, I won't take more than a minute. Yeah. So, you know, Sweetie Singh is the BJP candidate, and she's got, in terms of percentage points, exactly what is the non-Muslim percentage point of Kishanganj. So, to say that Muslims have voted tactically is not true, because they have actually AIMIM or maybe Congress has massively cut, has been the typical vote cutter in this case. So it is not tactical voting. If you really want to call it, it is foolish. It's not being tactical at all. But it is something that.
But then so has Chirag Paswan and the LJP been. But let me get in Yashwant Deshmukh. And Yashwant Deshmukh, I want to ask you, this whole argument that has been put forth by Abdul Basit Sahab, where he says इतना मेहनत किए हैं तेजस्वी जी, कांग्रेस ने थोड़ा उनका खराब कर दिया है प्लान इधर उधर, लेकिन मेहनत किए हैं इसलिए सीटें उनको ज्यादा मिलनी चाहिए. Is this a logic that holds out? Number one. And number two, you know, in all of this today, if this whole thing is hanging in the balance, 122 versus 114, how much of a spoiler has Chirag Paswan been?
वेल नाविका, बस आपको मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा कि आप मेहनत की है तो उसकी जबरदस्त तारीफ भी तो हो रही है. हम सब लोग ने गला फाड़ फाड़ के चिल्लाया ना कि एक पोल बन गए हैं, तेजस्वी यादव पसीना छुड़ा दिए हैं, नीतीश कुमार का प्रधानमंत्री का भी पसीना छुड़ा दिए हैं. हम ही लोग थे ना जो गला फाड़ फाड़ के चिल्ला रहे थे. तो अतिश साहब जब ये सुन रहे हैं तो वो भी सुनिए, कहाँ चूक गए हैं वो भी सुन लीजिए. अब इस चुनाव में युवाओं ने वोट दिया आपको, लेकिन महिलाओं ने उतना वोट नहीं दिया. महिलाओं ने उनको अभी भी बचा लिया. पार्टी का मुकाबला है बहुत, जिसे कहते हैं चाचन को 200, 400, 1000 वोट वाली आंकड़े वाली बहुत सारी सीटें हैं. ऐसा नहीं है कि सारी सीटें आप हार रहे हैं. आपके हिस्से की भी सीटें निकाल के दिखा दें कि सचिन को की आपने कितनी सीटें जीती हैं. अगर आप 8-10 सीट हार रहे हैं बासित साहब, तो 15 सीट आप जीत भी रहे हैं, वो इतने ही सचिन को वाले मार्जिन से. तो ये देखिए, अभी मुकाबला खत्म नहीं हुआ है, लेकिन कम से कम ये ईवीएम का रोना, कम से कम ये प्लीज बी ए स्पोर्ट, ये वही ईवीएम है, ये वही ईवीएम है जो 5 साल पहले आपको जो है बम्पर फाड़ करके मेजॉरिटी दिए थे. ये वही ईवीएम है,
क्योंकि काउंटिंग तो कंटिन्यू चल रही है. अब 50 लाख वोट रह गए सिर्फ.
So let me get in Dr. Fuad Halim. Dr. Fuad Halim, let me now bring up the other issue. Opposition once again is now crying poll fraud. After RJT, now the Congress party and Randeep Singh Surjewala is saying that there is a problem. The Election Commission has played fraud on them, and that seems to be the only complaint that they have now 13 hours into the counting. Dr. Fuad Halim, is this even fair?
Well, at the outside, let me welcome you back, Navika, after your recent indisposition, and hope you are healthy. Coming to the question that you have asked is very, very clear. You know, when you have the Home Minister by the name of Amit Shah, then one has to be prepared for all sorts of machinations, you know, and one has to be prepared, one has to be very, very cautious, because the Bharatiya Janata Party is definitely not a party that believes in electoral honesty, it doesn't value our democratic system. The very government that they have formed in Bihar is a clarion example of that behavior. Last election they were thrown out of power, and through the back door they came back to power.
This is a highly defamatory statement. This is a highly defamatory statement, Dr. Fuad Halim. I will have to allow Dr. Patra, who's raising his hand, to come out and rebut.
I object to this.
Yes, Dr. Patra. Dr. Patra.
We've seen how the
no, it's a serious statement made by Fuad Halim. I did not take the RJD spokesperson seriously, but now that Fuad Halim has said this, I have my right to make a statement. Just a second. No, she has asked me. Meanwhile, let me answer that.
I started off.
Just a second. Let me rebut because there are serious allegations that you have made. Sir, it is my time, sir. She has allotted me. The anchor has allotted allotted me my time. So it is my time. You have made serious
allegations. What is Amit Shah's fault?
Across India.
Dr. Patra, respond to Dr. Fuad Halim. He's mentioned the Home Minister by name. Respond to it.
I mean, just imagine these people. They have got 17, 18 seats, these communist parties, the leftists. And here they have the audacity of blaming the Prime Minister. They have the audacity of blaming the Home Minister. They have the audacity of calling out the EVMs and blaming the Election Commission. Let me tell you one thing, और मैं हिंदी में आपको समझा दूं, ये EVM भी ठीक है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट भी ठीक है, ये इलेक्शन कमीशन भी ठीक है, आपका नेता खराब है भैया। उसने साइकिल को छुआ था, साइकिल पंचर भइल बा, उसने अभी लालटेन के नीचे बैठा हुआ है। मैं अभी बता रहा हूं आपको, लालटेन बुझा के जाएगा ये नेता। आपका नेता खराब है, ईवीएम खराब नहीं है, नेता को बदलिए, ईवीएम बिल्कुल ठीक है। हाथी को छुआ था, उस दिन से मायावती बोल रही है मैं ये दोनों युवराज से कोसों दूर रहूंगी। साइकिल से उतार दिया है अखिलेश जी ने, और मैं आपको आज प्रेडिक्ट कर रहा हूं, आप इंतजार करिए, 2 महीने बाद यही तेजस्वी फिर से प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस करके बोलेगा बहुत बड़ा भूल हो गया, लालटेन के पास राहुल गांधी को बैठाया है। कुछ खराब नहीं है, जिसमें खराबी है उसको देख नहीं रहे हैं। और ये क्या है, ये क्या है? ईवीएम को हैक कर दिया, ईवीएम को हैक कर दिया। ये क्या 2 मोबाइल लेके बैठे हुए हैं? ये क्या, I mean, what kind of stuff these people are talking about? What has Amit Shah to do with Bihar? What has Amit Shah to do with Bihar?
I need to take a very short break. I need to take a very short break. When I come back, I'm coming straight to Dr. Fuad Halim and Sanjay Jha, who are waiting by, and I want to bring up the latest number that we are getting from the Election Commission, and that number says 15 seats where rounds are more than 30% left. Only on 5 seats the Gathbandhan is leading. On the other 10 it is the NDA leading. The rest are trailing significantly. Only if the NDA loses all the 10 does the Gathbandhan have a chance. That is the latest information that we are getting at the moment from the ground, and if we can fire out those big full frame latest details that we are getting, that it is 15 seats where counting is still going on, where 5 is where the Gathbandhan has the edge, the other 10 has the NDA having the leads. Which way is this election going? We'll come back right after this very short break.
The News Hour at 9 will be right back after the break.
Well, welcome back, and our researchers are at the moment working on a close number of 15 seats, and it is on these 15 seats where the margins are close and 30% of counting is still left. We will try and get our researchers on the screen, and it is in these 15 seats where 5 are where the Gathbandhan is ahead, and 10 on which the NDA is ahead. NDA will have to lose each of these 10 for the Gathbandhan to be in a position to form the government. We are trying to give you the these seats. Kesaria, JDU ahead by 3K votes. Pira, again JDU ahead by 20K votes. Then there is the RJD, which is ahead on Lokaha. Also Supul, Banmari, as well as Madhepura. These Chhapra are some of these seats on which the margins are such that the way it's looking right now for the RJD, which is getting extremely restless, is because they're leading on 5 and NDA is leading on 10, and that is where the restlessness is coming in from. So let me go across to Sanjay Jha. Sanjay Jha, I want to ask you, and it's almost become a chore every election, because this question of questioning the way the counting is being done, the EVMs, has almost become standard, and there is no consensus between the opposition. Karti Chidambaram compliments and says EVMs are the most scientific things. Randeep Surjewala says, oh, big problem with the EVMs, and that also in the 23rd hour of counting. Sanjay Jha, I want to ask you, is anybody supposed to take these cries of hopelessness coming in from the opposition seriously? Or is this once again a mockery of the entire democratic process as well as of the institution like the Election Commission, which has done such a fantabulous job as far as managing an election, having a voter turnout almost as much as before, in this pandemic condition?
Well, Navika, there can be no denying that the Election Commission has done an extraordinary job. I mean, it's not just about, organizing an election, but doing so in the time of pandemic with all kinds of restrictions and ensuring safety and good health is never an easy task. And the turnout is a manifestation of their success. I don't think anybody can challenge that at all. And I would like to say so with complete responsibility. I wanted Gathbandhan to do well, but I would not complain against the EVM. I was part of the AICC session that happened in 2018. And at that point, the Congress party passed a resolution saying that India must move towards a ballot paper. That was a Congress party resolution. Unfortunately, we did not push it forward or create a political consensus. So that is an institutional reform that can be debated on another format. But as of today, we should be present. And if the EVM is the machine that counts the votes, then let's not challenge it unless you have, as they say, tangible evidence. This is a question which people are asking of US President Donald Trump. When he challenges an election, everybody's asking him, please provide us evidence. If we don't have evidence, I don't think we should indulge in this hoodwinking at all. My second point is, as I think all the panelists have correctly pointed out, this is a close election. Let it be counted out till the last vote. The RJD has, in my opinion, single-handedly taken on the burden of the Gathbandhan. The Congress is definitely disappointed, which is a fact. The numbers say so. The left has done remarkably well. And I think the RJD has, reasons to feel if somebody in the RJD believes that there is a degree of maybe a delayed result, etc., that could have been avoided, they have a right to follow a process to lodge the complaint. But I do feel that by tomorrow, we will definitely get to know what the final result is. And whatever the verdict is, I think we should learn to respect. So, bottom line, I agree with you that we should not be looking like namby-pamby, complainers. It's been a great election. It's a triumph of democracy. I also want to be honest with you that I do believe if you include the by-election results, this has been a great day for the BJP. I would like to congratulate my friend Sambit Patra. They have done well. They have done well. And I'm sure if the Congress had done well, Sambit would have congratulated me as well. I think we need to create a more healthy democracy. I don't want to come and just criticize something for the sake of it.
Dr. Patra, do people of the Congress only become large-hearted when they are either suspended or thrown out, Dr. Patra? Because Sanjay Jha has no problems in congratulating you, but nobody from the Congress would do that.
Navika.
No, I would not blame Sanjay Jha. He has been a good friend since long, and I would tell you, it is a suffocation within the Congress party. I mean, who better than Shehzad would be able to articulate that? It's a suffocation within the Congress party, which in fact forces certain people to take a course which probably they would not willfully take. And I'm happy that Sanjay, an articulate man, in fact, was forced to take the course, and today he sounds saner. Just imagine the same Sanjay today would have been shouting against the EVM, and how sane he looks today. So in fact, all these Congress spokespersons should rewind most of their debates, and they should watch their own debates to look at where they're heading towards. It's all because of one thing. 100 ton ka patthar apne dil par rakh ke
Ghanshyam Tiwari, I have very little time left. And while we all agreed that unemployment is a problem, we all agreed that the COVID, the handling, the migrant situation, everything was a problem. But in the end, will you give it that it is the Modi magic which is still intact? Will you concede that tonight?
Well, I think we will have time for that, but I will just make very quick point. Look at ARA, for example. When the debate started, CPIML was leading ARA and BJP was trailing. And you look at, it's all Election Commission data that I'm telling you, anyone can see. And they put out round by round data. There are 9 rounds remaining. Last 3 rounds, every round BJP has gotten more than what they were trailing with. So these are the matters that raise questions. So we can't give anybody a blank check that everything is going to be hunky-dory.
So
This is a very important election, and parties are concerned when you start saying, I'm telling you data that you can play out for your viewers.
Navika
can go online and see.
बीजेपी को ज्यादा मिले तो प्रॉब्लम है शहजाद पूनावाला.
ये इंडिया है.
1 second. Navika, 1 second. Just let me clarify for the viewers. Navika, there are 15 seats. There are just 15 seats where the counting that is remaining is more than 30%. And 1 second, can I just make my point? There are only 15 seats where the counting which is left is more than 30%. Of that, only five the MGB is leading in. The remaining 10, the lead is in the NDA's quarter. And the margins are very, very much large. Now, look at this. Donald Trump, 1 second, let me make my point. Please.
Absolutely, and that's the data that we put out earlier. Well, counting still going on. Just as we look at the final numbers once again, 122 for the NDA and it is 114 for the Gathbandhan. For me, the big takeaway is that the double engine is still in business. The double Yuvraj seems to have missed it by a whisker. Even if you say that, kudos to them, but it is actually Rahul Gandhi that Tejasvi Yadav should be blaming rather than the Election Commission of India. That's one big takeaway. The other big takeaway is anti-incumbency of Nitish Kumar has affected him, as has the LJP cutting its vote. But the fact is, Modi's strong hand has pulled Nitish out. Also, the nationalism card that has been played has resounded with the people. Memories of the Jungle Raj have not been forgotten by the people of Bihar. And as far as the rest of the country is concerned, well, it is a complete thumbs up. Even in Telangana, the BJP opening its account, fantastic performance in Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Manipur and Madhya Pradesh for the BJP. Clearly, whichever way you look at it, this election once again is a big thumbs up for Narendra Modi, for JP Nadda, who is playing his first match as BJP president, and of course, for the trio of Modi, Shah and Nadda. Life looks better going into the West Bengal elections. That's how they're going to be looking at this. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on the News Hour. One more election we've done together. Viewers, you and us, we'll keep it going. We'll keep you bringing the updates on the other side with Padmanjal Joshi. Don't go away.
The News Hour at 9 will be right back after the break.